Princess Charlotte was the only child of the Prince Regent, future George IV. So she was the granddaughter of George III and would therefore have been queen if she had lived beyond the birth of her child.
Princess Charlotte was painted wearing this dress by the famous portraitist of the time, George Dore, who worked both in England and in Russia. And in one of the versions in the Royal Collection, it's wonderful to be able to compare this dress with the actual painting and see where perhaps some artistic license came into play and where in many ways the differences appear. It was a very interesting moment in Princess Charlotte's life because her future husband, Prince Leopold, had actually served under the Emperor Alexander I of Russia, who of course successfully went on to defeat the French in the Napoleonic Wars. And it's possible that there was almost a mini fashion trend for wearing Russian dress because this was a moment when England and Russia were great allies. And what's rather fascinating about it is that it's always been known as Princess Charlotte's Russian dress. And the reason for that is that it's based on the original Russian sarafan.
We think that this painting, which is a copy after the original painting by George Dore, would have been painted between 1818, after her death, and 1825. There is a much more ornate version of the portrait in the National Portrait Gallery with similar to the same dress in a dark blue, but with a much more ornate blouse which has lace work and lovely pulled, gathered openings to the sleeves.
This dress, although called Princess Charlotte's Russian dress, almost certainly was made in England. And in fact, in many ways, it complies with contemporary Regency dress for women. It would have been quite normal for a day dress to be in this form, worn over a shirt. But it is nonetheless very richly produced from this beautiful blue silk. And the blue silk is contrasted with this beautiful gold thread braid, which has this scalloped edge, and also it's highlighted with red embroidery, almost like berries.
An earlier restoration really covered every single drying crack and abrasion and slight imperfection in the paint. Our intention as restorers now is to do as little as possible of this retouching or knitting together, in the case of some parts of this painting, to do as little as possible to bring the painting as close as possible to how it would originally have appeared. I'm looking at it, and this is all of the original painting that there is, and there are relatively few areas where I consider it necessary to do some small areas of retouching. Up towards her ear and just above the top edge of her blouse, where there's quite a lot of abrasion through to the original texture of the twill canvas.
What I think is one of the most remarkable features about this dress is the fact that it has survived. It's just almost exactly 200 years old. And I think part of the reason for that is this rather poignant reason that, very sadly, this is one of the last garments actually worn by Princess Charlotte because she died just the following day after giving birth to her stillborn son. And we know that this was worn during her pregnancy, so it is a very late piece in her wardrobe. And I think that could be the primary reason why it has survived. It was kept. It was something to be treasured and handed down from generation to generation in the royal family.